Hey, welcome in. We're going to get right into it. The NFL Draft is quickly approaching. That means I've got my next installment of a mock draft for the Miami Dolphins 2.0. We're going all 7 rounds on this one. So buckle up, dial it in, fasten your seatbelts, and let's take a look at the Dolphins draft capital. And as it stands right now, unless Chris Grier and the front office decide to shake things up with maybe some trades, sending draft picks elsewhere, here's what the Dolphins will be working with when the NFL draft comes in April. Starting with the first round pick, they have the number 21st overall pick, and it is the first time in 3 years the Miami Dolphins will have a pick in the first round, so that is a welcome sight with open arms. Round 2, the Dolphins are picking 55th overall. That's the 23rd selection of the second round. Then jump to round 3 and 4. Unfortunately, no picks in either of those rounds. The third round pick forfeited from the tampering violation with Sean Payton and Tom Brady. Whoops! And round 4, that pick was traded to Denver, involved in the Bradley Chubb deal. Back on the board in round 5 and 2 and 6 and 1 and 7 for a grand total of 6 picks in 2024. Now, as we get you set for Dolphins draft coverage leading up to the NFL draft, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss a thing on Dolphins Today. We've got you covered from every single angle, and we're going to continue to implement these installments of mock drafts as we continue to progress. Because remember, the NFL Combine is coming up quickly, and a lot of things can change after the NFL Combine. We're going to stay close to Mel Kiper's big boards and everybody else's as well. So, that said, nothing's going to change as far as the Dolphins' position of need, so that's always an important conversation to have when you're including the draft conversation for the Dolphins. So I've identified these position groups as the most pressing for the Aqua and Orange, starting first and foremost with that offensive line. We all know how banged up the Dolphins' offensive line was in 2023, 12 different starting combinations in the regular season. That's a lot. It was musical chairs due to the injury bug. I think the Dolphins will need to improve at the linebacker and edge position as well. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, both with breakout years last year. However, both had their season end prematurely due to injury, and there's a lot of questions of when their return will take place. Obviously, not at the very beginning of the season, so building up the edge position, I think, is important. Still the question with Andrew Van Ginkel as well as he becomes a free agent. Wide receiver room, that's important because you have 2 of the top wide receivers in the NFL, but after that, it almost completely falls out. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle together combined for over 60% of the Dolphins' receiving yards in 2023. Got to add some depth for Tua to distribute the ball to. And to round it out, the defensive line could use some work. Zach Sealer and Christian Wilkins both had breakout seasons. Tremendous at the top of the defensive line, but not a lot of depth after that. And cornerback is an area of need, although given the change of the staff on the defensive side of the ball, you've got a new defensive coordinator in Anthony Weaver. We'll see if Cam Smith gets a shot. Now, without further ado, I have implemented my 2.0 mock draft with the Pro Football Focus simulator. So this is all based on realistic simulations. Who's available, who's not available, because I'd love to just take the best player. But PFF runs millions and millions and millions of possible draft outcomes. And here we go with the Dolphins' first pick in the first round, 21st overall. I've got the Miami Dolphins taking Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU, ranked number 4 in the Mel Kiper big board position group by wide receivers. Now, there are a ton of very talented wide receivers in this draft class, and a lot of people don't believe Brian Thomas will be available at 21. So in this case, with the simulation through PFF, the fact that he was available, I had my general manager hat on and thought, why not take a swing and draft a big play wide receiver like Brian Thomas Jr., 6'4", 205 pounds, a big target for Tua Tagovailoa, and immediately could have a positive impact on this Dolphins offense. You look at the stats there in 2023, 17 touchdowns. He can also be a deep ball threat. You pair this guy with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, look out. The Dolphins' aerial assault will be unstoppable, and I get it. I know. Pump the brakes. We got to address the offensive line, and we will. We still have 5 more picks, but if Brian Thomas Jr. is available at 21, you could talk me into taking him, obviously, as I did in this mock draft. So why not take Brian Thomas Jr. at 21? Let me know what you think. I want to hear from you in the comments. Give me your one-word reaction to the pick if the Dolphins, hypothetically, were to take Brian Thomas Jr. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think there's no chance the Dolphins won't pick anything other than an offensive lineman in that first round? Let your voice be heard. Get down in the comments. Now, in 2023, the reason I love the idea of bulking up that wide receiver room is because the Dolphins, Tua passed for a career high, 4,514 yards, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they were responsible for 62% of the receiving production. So when you have two guys doing all the work, and we saw this down the stretch, teams defensively can game plan against that. Look at what Kansas City did, and Tyreek even had the touchdown in the wild card game, but that was their only production offensively. It takes 11 guys on the offense to put together a potent offense, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. gives you a chance to put together arguably one of the best passing offenses in the NFL, and if he's available at number 21, I like the idea of taking Brian Thomas Jr. Now, moving to the second round, here's where I address the offensive line. If you followed Dolphins Today, you know we've talked quite a bit about Christian Haynes. He was a guy that had a really good week at the Reese Senior Bowl, and so his stock continues to climb, and if he's available in the second round, because of how deep this offensive line draft class is, I expect him to be available with that 55th overall pick, and again, he becomes an immediate impact player for the Miami Dolphins, somebody that can make an impact on day one, and when you consider the injuries that this offensive line dealt with, there's a couple of question marks for the Dolphins as far as free agency on the offensive line. Connor Williams, Rob Hunt, Isaiah Wynn, the list goes on, Kendall Lamb, all guys that you're not sure are going to be back next year. This is a guy that I think could step in and be a day one starter for the Miami Dolphins. Pro Football Focus graded him out better than an 80% as a grade. And again, it's a long list of draft prospects on the offensive line. If Christian Haynes is available in the second round, I love the idea of drafting him, and then he becomes an immediate impact player that can compete for a starting position because you're unsure whether Isaiah Wynn, Connor Williams, or Robert Hunt, that's center and both guards, if they'll be back with the Dolphins. And this could just be a way cheaper version to address some of those holes in the offensive line because as we've talked about at length, the Dolphins might have some cap casualties coming, and if Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Isaiah Wynn, any of those guys are cap casualties, look for Christian Haynes to step in and be a guy that can start from day one for the Miami Dolphins. That's why I love Miami drafting him in the second round with that 55th overall pick. Now, I told you I want to hear from you what you think. Let me know. You tell me down in the comments. What's the importance of the Dolphins drafting an O-line early in this draft? Because remember, no pick in round 3 or 4 as it stands right now. So if you don't get an offensive line in the first or second round, you're looking at not until the 5th round, potentially. Again, this could change with some trades. But let me know how important it is for the Dolphins to draft an offensive lineman in those first 2 rounds. Scale for me 1 through 10. Now, jump ahead to not the 3rd or the 4th because we know the Dolphins aren't picking that round, all the way to the 5th round. I like J.D. Bertrand out of Notre Dame. He's a safety. He was a team captain, a guy that plays in a lot of ways a very smart player, as his draft profile describes him as. He's also a leader on the field. And I don't think this is a guy that comes in as a 5th-round pick and you expect to compete for a starting job, but that secondary could use some depth. I mean, look at the injuries that the Dolphins secondary dealt with all season. You had Javon Holland go down, Deshaun Elliott, Brandon Jones. All these guys missed some time, and so a depth pick like J.D. Bertrand makes a lot of sense here. And you look at the numbers from 2023 at Notre Dame, he's a guy that could really help the Miami Dolphins as it relates to the defensive side of the football for the Miami Dolphins. That's why I really believe this is a good pick for the Dolphins in the 5th round because, again, you're not picking in the 3rd or the 4th. Now, coming up, we're going to continue to break down my mock draft, but first, I want to give a huge shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, Game Time, the only app you'll ever need to buy all your tickets to live events. I'm telling you, it takes all the stress out of buying tickets, and hey, here we are. And maybe you missed Valentine's Day for your girl? Oh no, don't worry, you can buy tickets to a live event using the Game Time app. So here we are. Baseball's on the way. Pitchers and catchers are reporting. We're in the midst of the NBA season, maybe the NHL season, whatever it is. You got to use the Game Time app, and because we love you and we care about you, we got $20 off when you use that promo code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT, and we'll put that link right in the comments and description of today's video. It's FINSCHAT for $20 off. You got to love it. It's the Game Time app that takes all the stress out of buying tickets to live events. It's the only ticketing app that you'll ever need, and that's why I use Game Time. So download the Game Time app today. Use promo code FINSCHAT when you create a new account. And for that $20 off, because we love you and we care about you, there we go. All right, moving on. And I like the idea of the Dolphins in the 6th round drafting Jaheim Bell because he's a projected 5th round pick. And if you're able to steal him in the 6th round, there's a lot of value there and a lot of upside with Jaheim Bell. Now, as a tight end, great ball skills, great receiving skills, struggles a little bit blocking. And sometimes, and again, some of these draft profiles are going to change drastically once we have the combine. But right now, Jaheim Bell being projected in the 5th round with this particular simulation by Pro Football Focus, he was still available in the 6th round. So I thought, why not grab him, especially at a position the Dolphins could use a boost. With the tight end position, Durham Smythe had an up-and-down season, was okay receiving the ball, but I do believe adding another dynamic tight end to that tight end room would add one more element to the Dolphins' ability to be a productive offense from the passing standpoint. So Jaheim Bell, the tight end, and you look at the 2023 numbers, very impressive season. And again, I think he would fit very well in this limited tight end depth chart so far, where the Dolphins didn't get a ton of production outside of Durham Smythe on a handful of games. Julian Hill, much better blocking, and Tyler Kroft, I don't expect to be back next season. So 39 receptions, 503 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 2023. If you look at his 2022 numbers, had a really good year for Florida State. That was his first year with Florida State after transferring from South Carolina. So Jaheim Bell, a guy that's on my board, and if he's available in the 6th round, go ahead and grab him. Now, Jashin Davis is my next pick for the Miami Dolphins out of Wake Forest. The edge rusher is... His profile says he has great explosion, can accelerate low with power, relentless pursuit. I love that. And if you watch some of the videos from the Dolphins game against the Chiefs in the wild card, there was no pursuit, let alone a relentless pursuit. So that type of attitude, mindset on the defense, it'll be interesting to see if Anthony Weaver, the new defensive coordinator, implements that in the Dolphins. But right now, that mindset, that mentality is lacking from the Aqua and Orange. So Jashin Davis, could help a lot in adding one more guy that's physically gifted, a little bit raw on the pass rushing side of things, could improve his arsenal of attacks from the pass rushing position. But as far as the stature, the make of Jashin Davis, 6'3", 259 pounds, and a guy that put up pretty good numbers in 2023 for Wake Forest. If he's available, I like the idea as a late round pick, a day 3 pick for the Dolphins that can come in with the right attitude, the right mindset, and make a difference. Now, to the 7th round, last but certainly not least, last pick for the Dolphins, Josh Proctor, safety out of Ohio State. And Proctor, a guy, again, that doesn't necessarily wow you with some of his coverage skills, and as a safety, that might be a glaring weakness. But what I love about Josh Proctor is his eagerness to come downhill as a tackler, and he plays with a physical edge, even though he plays in the secondary. And we've seen a lot of guys in the National Football League make a living off of being a blitzing safety that can come down and run support and really make an impact physically on the game. I mean, go back to Troy Polamalu, one of the best safeties in the history of the game. That's what he was known for. I think more recently you saw Brian Branch in Detroit be utilized as a blitzer quite a bit from the safety position. And I'm not saying Josh Proctor can do the same as a first-round pick and those types of guys, but I don't necessarily hate the fact that maybe he lacks in coverage a little bit when he can provide such a boost in run defense. And this is a 7th round pick, so we're not asking Josh Proctor to come in and be the defensive MVP from day one. We're asking him to be a depth player and help this Miami Dolphins defense out. So let's review. There are my 6 picks for the Miami Dolphins, and you got to love Pro Football Focus giving me an individual grade. So those are Pro Football Focus's grades, not mine. My Brian Thomas Jr., go back to the first round, wide receiver pick, got a B+. Yeah, Pro Football Focus loved my Christian Haynes pick, and why wouldn't they? A-, tremendous value there in the second round. J.D. Bertrand out of Notre Dame, the linebacker. Pro Football Focus didn't hate that pick. I'll take a B. B, why not? Jaheim Bell, B+. I think the tight end's an area of need for the Dolphins. And again, with Jaheim Bell being projected as a 5th-round pick, if he's there in the 6th round, why not? Jashin Davis, also a 6th-round pick. Yeah, they didn't love that one. C+, it looks like my report card in college. Josh Proctor, same, a C+. But overall, a B+. I think my first mock draft 1.0 got an A-, so I'm getting a little bit worse. And that's just Pro Football Focus's opinion. So I want to know the real one's opinions. Who cares what Pro Football Focus says? Get out your red pens. Let me know what you think. Grade my mock draft. A, B, C, or D, or F if you think it was that bad. Chugs, let's show them one more time our picks just to review it. That way everybody knows when they got their red pen out there. Pro Football Focus gave me a B+. Boo, I think I get an A+. Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round. Christian Haynes in the second. Jump up to the 5th round with the 155th pick overall. There you got J.D. Bertrand. And in the 6th round, Jaheim Bell, Jashin Davis, and last but certainly not least, Josh Proctor out of Ohio State. Let me know what you think. And if you really love the Miami Dolphins, you got to prove it. Subscribe to the channel because we're doing this every single week. Every single day we're bringing you Dolphins content, latest draft news, free agency news, you name it. We've got you covered on Dolphins Today.